Hello, it's me Mario. Of course, I'm kidding, I'm Pavlo, and today we'll talk about affordable hybrid in-ear monitors made by KBEar, model named Pecker. Their price is $28-29 depending on version with microphone or without. You can get them in some fancy colors you can see on the box. I will add link to the store in the description, of course. And in general, it's yet another model with promising specs. Here used single dynamic driver and two balanced armatures. And creators said that it's customized balanced armatures and sensitivity is 103 decibels, which is not really high, but impedance is just 16 ohms, so they won't be hard to drive. And that's probably all we can say in the introduction part, so let's have a closer look. Traditional matchbox-like packaging we've seen many times before, and inside we're getting also pretty familiar stuff. So let's dig in. So earpieces themselves, actually set of 3 additional pair of tips. And just pay attention, it's not like regular tips we see in the affordable in-ear monitors, it's better tips from the more expensive models. It's nice gray silicone ones. And of course a stock cable, which we'll need now to demonstrate it and to showcase. So cable looks or is looking pretty traditional for this price tire. So here is the design, traditionally plastic inner shell and the metal outer plate. And the metal plate looks pretty nice, interesting dotted pattern and the company's logo. So pretty strict, but at the same time doesn't look dull. And here is that transparent inner part that a lot of people like, and you can actually count the number of drivers you're getting. So here is dynamic driver, and here are two balanced armatures. They have separate spouts, so driver count here is honest. And as you can see here, used metal spout, and it's pretty lengthy, so it improves wearing comfort a little bit. And also there is a lip for holding the tips and metal grill, so all necessary details for the good affordable earphones are here. Great that they didn't make spouts of plastic. And thanks to this length and angle of spout, they have nice wearing comfort and slightly above passive sound isolation. Probably not enough for some noisy places like subway or some construction site, but during daily commute in more relaxed situation you won't be bothered by noise. A bit unusual connectors, it's 2 pins but with recessed pins and extruding socket. So is it left or right? As usual, it's hard to read the letters on these connectors because they are almost transparent. But it connects and hold cable pretty well. Here is the cable. There are ear hooks formed to hold cable around your ear. And actually it's like not super soft and a bit leaning towards holding its form, but in regular wearing it's pretty okay. Sometimes you can get slight microphonic effect, but to minimize it you can use this chin slider. And here is splitter. You can see that there is no soldering here. I remember the times when in splitter they used soldering joint and 4 cables connected in splitter into 3 cables and went down to the jack. But here of course all 4 cables goes to this jack, and it's also traditional familiar angle jack. So in terms of outlook, it's nothing super fancy, but at the same time nothing bad here too, just common affordable design in this case, pretty practical and useful. And now about the sound, I gave them 48 hours of burn-in, but there were no significant changes in the sound, and what I like about the upgraded ear tips in the accessory set, it's easy to find the fitting pair, at least for me. And in terms of signature, it's a typical hybrid V-shaped signature, but with not really prominent treble except of one peak at the about 8 kHz area. So it makes them a bit distinctive from traditional V-shapes. But let's probably describe sound step by step. So bass here is really good for this price. It's deep, it has nice impact, it has good control, so I'm not sure if there's something I could wish more. Of course, like in more expensive segment, you'll get more tiny nuances, you'll get even more punch, but here actually normal weight and pretty good punch. They are not bass head, at least at my scale, but pretty bassy. So if you like low frequencies, but not like only low frequencies, it can be a pretty decent option here. Of course, they are suited more for electronic music, pop music or something like that, but natural instrument sounds also pretty okay. Not superb, but on a normal level, pretty enjoyable. And the first example, it's like perfectly fitting this signature. It's Come Together, covered by Michael Jackson. And as you can imagine, this track has noticeable accent on the bass and drum line, and these earphones deliver it pretty well, and also Jackson's voice and a lot of interesting instruments and musical ideas put in the mid frequencies is also represented pretty well by this model. Mid frequencies is also represented mainly by the dynamic driver. It makes them a bit warm colored, a bit weighty, not maximum resolution, just like I'd say probably average, not good, but like 3 out of 5. But instead you're getting pretty musical representation and comfortable, and still like despite the absence of focus on the micro contrast, still you get a good sense of realism. But it's more depending on the track. On the complex tracks, of course, you lack a little bit of definition. Imaginary stage is slightly above average, not huge, but with good width. Depth is a bit smaller than width, so a bit more of 2D, but still layering is present here anyway. And example for the mid frequencies, it's no, let's go back. It's Don't Stop Me Now by Queen, and it's pretty enjoyable with these earphones. Because, for example, for the innuendo, they lacking a bit of technicality, but Don't Stop Me Now is not that saturated with nuances and details, and that gives you like a pretty enjoyable experience, especially taking into account that additional bass present here and sounding really pleasant with this track. And the treble, it's mostly comfortable with average extension and like on the softer side of things, not really forward, but there is a small spike at about, actually not small, no, not huge, but not small, like noticeable, viable spike at about 8 kHz area. So if you're sensitive to that part, it can be a bit uncomfortable to you, but in general, it's basically like adding a bit more splash to the cymbals, and that's it. So overtone saturation is pretty basic, and actually it's a model for those who like non-super energetic treble. And here is unusual example for the treble here. Let's go back and Yep, it's the Doors, Light My Fire. It's like old type of stereo mix with keyboards at right channel and old drums and percussions moved closer to the left channel. And you hear that basic percussion, that cymbals and other things that are present here, but at the same time you definitely lacking a bit of overtones, you lacking that treble that gives you more realism, for example for the electric organ used here or what type of keyboard they used. But of course, like for $28, it's a pretty enjoyable signature if you don't go into audiophilia and you want like some model for common listening, for some fun experience, and that's it. This model was not created for the audiophiles, but for more like common listeners, and they fitting nicely into that area. Pairings, of course, you can use almost anything, but some basic digital tonal converter will give you a slight boost for them. I won't be doing any comparisons because for quite a long time I didn't test anything in this area, and also they have that distinguishing signature with noticeable bass, warmer mids, and not that prominent treble, but at the same time they're not like that type of earphones that have only bass and that's it. If you're interested in some particular comparisons, just feel free to ask me, I will try to do this comparison, but in general it's enjoyable model, non-audiophilic, but nevertheless pretty enjoyable. Thank you for listening, thank you for your attention, and of course have a great day.